Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 7 of Codename Kids Next Door, Operation Lice. We begin this segment with number 5 running through the halls of the delightful children from down the lane's mansion. Eventually, she comes across the delightful children themselves and a suit of armor with fire-based powers known as Sir Toasty. Number 5 grabs a fire extinguisher and she uses it to fly over the delightful children and Sir Toasty to reach the exit on the other side of the hallway. A vertical door is slowly descending upon the exit, but number 5 manages to make it through the exit. She notices that her hat fell off her head when she went through the exit, but she is able to reclaim her hat before the door fully descends. What number 5 doesn't see, but we the audience see, is the delightful children holding what looks like another copy of number 5's hat, and they let out an evil laugh. Eventually, number 5 returns to the treehouse, and we find out that she went to the delightful children's mansion to get a bag of snack chips because the kids next door, or the Sector V operatives, are planning to have chips, cheese, and nachos for snacks tonight. Number 4 points out that number 5 could have just gone to the store for the chips, but number 5 responds that it's more satisfying to take the chips from the delightful children. Just before number 5 is able to eat one of the chips, her head starts to become itchy, and it looks like something is growing inside of number 5's hat. Eventually, a giant louse, giant by normal louse standards anyway, bursts through number 5's hat, and then it scurries off somewhere into the treehouse. Number 1 notices that this particular louse actually seems to eat hair because the hair on top of number 5's head is no longer present. Other hair, like her braid, though, are still present right now. Number 3 finds the sight amusing, so she rushes off to get her camera. And when number 4 picks up number 5's hat and intends to give it to number 5, number 5 finds out that this hat is not her actual hat, but a counterfeit duplicate. Number 1 pieces together that the delightful children must have replaced number 5's hat with a lice-infected duplicate hat in order to set about a lice invasion in the treehouse. Suddenly, the 4 present Sector V operatives hear screaming coming from number 3's room, and they rush to number 3's room, only to find that it looks like the louse, or at this point in time, lice, managed to find number 3's room, and number 3's stuffed animals had a run-in with the lice, to say the least. And number 3 makes it very clear that she wants revenge on the lice for what they've done to her stuffed animals. Number 5 also manages to find a new replacement hat, and it's afterwards where the Sector V operatives notice that there still are lice in number 3's room, and the lice notice them. So the Sector V operatives run back to the kitchen, and they close the door and they try to keep the lice from breaking the door down, and they seem to succeed. Unfortunately, though, number 2, as he's backing away, realizes that a giant louse is in the kitchen because he runs into the giant louse when he's backing away. And number 2 is holding the bowl of nacho cheese. So in a state of panic, he tosses up the bowl, and the bowl crashes onto the giant louse. And the nacho cheese actually melts the giant louse away. So number one realizes that nacho cheese is their greatest weapon against this lice invasion. So a little later on, the Sector V operatives have acquired some 2x4 technology, and they've modified it so that it'll treat the nacho cheese as a weapon, so that they have a means to defend themselves from the lice invasion, and they intend to rid the treehouse of this infestation. Number one he pulls a switch, he pulls a rope switch in order to release some more nacho cheese so they can fill up their 2x4 technology with it. But they find out that the rope switch was broken because part of it was eaten away by a louse, which scurries off after being discovered. And the nacho cheese that they have in the kitchen right now is very little. So number one tells his teammates that they need to reach the cheese room, which is on the 67th level, I believe. Yeah, I believe it's on the 67th level, but number one says they have to get to the cheese room in order to get some more nacho cheese to rid the treehouse of this lice infestation. So they fill up their nacho cheese weapons with what nacho cheese they have available to them, and they realize they are going to have to ration their nacho cheese as they make their way to the cheese room. So the Sector V operatives begin their journey to the cheese room. And one by one, members of Sector V are attacked or slowed down by some of the lice. Number 4 is the first to be attacked by lice. Next up, some lice are about to attack the Sector V operatives that remain, but number 3 tells her teammates to go on without her, and she sets off a nacho cheese detonator to slow down the lice. And eventually then number 2 is attacked by lice as well. So in the end, number 1 and number 5 are the only Sector V teammates who make it to the cheese room. Number 1 realizes that the lice have multiplied to the point where they need to cover the entire treehouse with nacho cheese in order to eliminate all the lice. So number 1 alters the pressure of the containers of nacho cheese, and they have to hit the purge button in order to unleash the nacho cheese throughout the entire treehouse. But before either of them can reach the purge button, the Queen Louse appears to stop them. The Queen Louse grabs number 1, but notices that number 1 is already bald. So the Queen Louse just tosses number 1 into some containers or supplies. So that leaves number 5 as the only one left to hit the purge button. Number 5 uses her nacho cheese weapon to fly over the Louse Queen, or the Queen Louse, and to reach the purge button. But the Queen Louse manages to bite number 5's braid and slowly eats more of number 5's braid as number 5 continues to try to reach the purge button. Suddenly, number 2, who's still being attacked by some lice, rushes up to the cheese room and insists that number 5 say a cheese-related pun before hitting the purge button. But this ends up working out because the Queen Louse is distracted by number 2's arrival and just has a baffled look. There's a baffled look on the Queen Louse's face, and number 5 takes advantage of this distraction to hit the purge button. And yes, the entire treehouse is covered in nacho cheese, which means the lice invasion has ended. The next day, the delightful children are seen walking through the park, and they're about to pass by what looks like an adult reading the newspaper. The adult trips the delightful children, and the football helmet that one of the delightful children wears falls off. The adult picks up the football helmet and offers it back to the delightful children, who thank the adult. But when the boy with the football helmet puts the football helmet back on, his head seems to be very itchy, and we hear what sounds like chewing noises as the delightful children are walking away. And then the newspaper is pulled back, revealing that this adult is actually the Sector V operatives. So, yeah, the Sector V operatives decided to do to the delightful children what the delightful children did to them the previous night. And so the segment ends with the Sector V operatives laughing about how the delightful children will have to deal with a lice invasion very soon. So this segment marks the return of the delightful children, who have been absent for 3 episodes now, because that's right, both segments of episode 4, episode 5, and episode 6 did not feature the delightful children, so they were absent in both segments of episodes 4, 5, and 6, but they've made their return. And although they only appear at the beginning and the end of the segment, they were, of course, the instigators of the conflict, because they are the ones who set the lice invasion into motion. And one could also argue that number 5 gets a significant role. Or, yeah, some fans would argue that this segment could be considered a number 5 spotlight appearance, since number 5 was the one who ended up stopping the lice invasion in the end. And seeing number 5 not get her original hat back by the end of the segment stands out to a lot of fans now after the series has ended, because a later episode, I believe it's a season 4 episode if I'm not mistaken, but a later episode reveals that number 5's hat actually has a lot of sentimental value to her. We'll cross that bridge when we eventually get to it. So that really stood out to a lot of fans, that number 5 didn't end up getting her original hat back. Now, some fans have speculated that maybe the hat number 5 lost after her trip to the delightful children's mansion might not have been her original hat either. Maybe it was just one of many copies of the hat, since we do see number 5 did have another copy of the hat sometime after the lice invasion started. On the other hand, though, I've seen some fans speculate that maybe number 5 eventually reclaimed the original hat, assuming that the hat that she lost in the delightful children's mansion was her original hat. I've noticed some fans speculate maybe number 5 eventually reclaimed the hat from the delightful children, and it just happened off screen, so we never saw it happen. And, well, that does leave some speculation, I guess, for some fans to wonder, because, like I said, we do find out that number 5's hat actually has a lot of sentimental value to her, and that will be made clear in that later episode. And likewise, this segment also addressed how number 1 is bald, how number 1 is bald, because number 1 was the only Sector V operative who didn't get attacked by the lice. The lice had no interest in number 1 because he had no hair. And yes, there is actually a story behind number 1 not having hair. Now, we only hear vague hints about it or very cryptic references to it here or there, but we do have at least a general answer for why number 1 doesn't have hair anymore. We don't get the specific details, but we do get the general answer for that, and that gets answered in an episode in season 3. So we'll cross that bridge eventually when we get to it. But yeah. Otherwise, this segment also could be seen as this segment definitely brought the Alien movies to mind, and I enjoyed the Alien movies, so I did enjoy how the segment referenced those Alien movies. And I will say, I remember back when I first watched the segment, I was definitely at the edge of my seat as the Sector V operatives became a dwindling party, as the Lice slowly but steadily managed to get the drop on the Sector V operatives. Although we also got some interesting moments as well, like number three pulling a heroic sacrifice to save the rest of her teammates. Tom Warburton had mentioned on one of his blog posts that number three's sacrifice with the nacho cheese detonator is one of his favorite moments from season 1, and I can see why. So otherwise, though, I think that's about it for this segment. So some things do stand out about this segment because of details we learn later on in the series. And otherwise, though, yeah, I thought it was a cool reference to the Alien movies. So there we go for now. As of this video, we've now discussed the A segment of episode 7 of Codename Kids Next Door on this channel. Take care, and until next time,